Welcome to our midweek encouragement. I'm Pastor Reed. I want to thank you for clicking on the play button. It's good to be with you. I hope you're encouraged by what we have to what I have to say today. Just today, I went to go drop off some Easter baskets that our Silver Saints ministry team put together for some of our shut-ins. And I took my wife with me, and we enjoyed our time with one of our folks, and it was fantastic to see them and to be with them and to share love, Christ's love with them, to share the love of their community with them. And as we got up to leave, Kelsey turned and looked at me as we walked out of her room, and she said, "You've got a little spot on your shirt." And I was like, "Oh man!" And I'd been sitting there talking to this woman, for like a half an hour, with soup on my shirt, and I thought to myself, "She, what does she think of me? She must think I'm such, I don't." I felt horrible, and so sometimes we can be like that. So sometimes we do things, make mistakes, we fail at things, we exhibit our flaws on the biggest stages, and sometimes we wonder, could God possibly work in the midst of our flaws, of our imperfection, of our failures? And what I want to tell you is this: absolutely He can. God works in the midst of it all. God works with us regardless of how strong and gifted and talented we are, or how weak and seemingly ineffective we are, or flawed we believe ourselves to be. The truth of the matter is that all we need to do to serve God is to focus on the perfect, who is Him, rather than ourselves, who are imperfect. The reason why I got thinking about this is because one of the stories that was shared in our devotionals this week was from Luke 22:56 through 62, and it says this: "Then a servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the light and looking closely at him, said, 'This man also was with him.'" Now, this little girl's looking at Peter, and was also with him as referring to Jesus. But he, Peter, denied it, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." And a little later someone else saw him and said, "You also are one of them." But Peter said, Man, I am not." And after an interval of about an hour still, another insisted, saying, "Certainly this man also was with him, for he too is a Galilean." But Peter said, Man, I do not know what you are talking about." And immediately while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Jesus is on trial in the midst of the Sanhedrin, and Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. This story is about a couple of things. It's about, first of all, Peter's imperfections, Peter's bravado that he wouldn't possibly turn his back on Jesus, and Jesus' understanding of the brokenness and the fallibility of Peter. And yet, even though Jesus knows that Peter will deny him, even though Jesus knows that he is imperfect, Jesus also makes a different kind of statement about Peter in Matthew 16:13 through 20. It says, "Now when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, 'Who do you say that the Son of Man is?' And they said, 'Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets.' He said to them, 'But who do you say that I am?' Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and wherever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then he strictly charged the disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. See, Jesus knew and understood who Peter was. Jesus knew and understood that Peter was flawed, that Peter was going to fail him. And yet, Jesus tells Simon that he is the rock, that the church will be built on him. And so Jesus not only knows his failures, and he knows he will make mistakes, but he also puts confidence and faith in the role that Peter will play into the future. See, Jesus isn't focused on Peter's flaws, but he's focused on the possibility. He's focused on what it is that Jesus will do, will work through him, what God will work through him, what the Spirit will work through him. Jesus isn't focused on the imperfect, but on the perfect who partners with the imperfect to bring about change, transformation, redemption for people. I hope that you can see yourself and you can see others not simply as people who have failed or who have made mistakes or who have flaws that should be canceled at the slightest hint that they might fail or be imperfect, but that you can see that the perfect God works through the imperfect us to bring about the transformation of the world. Do the work that he has for you. Focus on that. Don't focus on your failings or your flaws. And don't do that to others either. Blessings.